My name is Rafael Mendez. I am 42 years old and have been an infectious disease physician for over 2 decades. I have worked in leading hospitals in Sao Paulo, participated in humanitarian missions in Africa, and dedicated my entire life to the study of viruses, bacteria, and epidemics. Everything I know, I learned in laboratories, from books, and at the bedside of patients. I have never been a churchgoer. My faith has always been placed in microscopes, data, and scientific evidence. I grew up in a traditional Catholic family, but I abandoned religion while still in college. For me, God was an emotional crutch for someone who couldn't face the harsh reality of the universe. I saw people dying every day and couldn't reconcile that with the idea of a loving creator. Science gave me answers. Faith, in my arrogant view, only offered comforting illusions for weak minds. My colleagues knew me as a rational man, sometimes too cold. My ex-wife used to say I'd replaced my heart with a stethoscope. Maybe she was right. I measured everything, analyzed everything, and discarded anything that didn't fit within the scientific method. If you told me a story like the one I'm about to tell, I would have laughed in your face. That's why I need you to understand the weight of what I'm about to say. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a mystic. I'm not a desperate man searching for meaning. I'm a scientist trained to doubt. And yet, here I am, trembling as I type these words, because what happened to me in March 2024 shattered everything I thought I knew about reality. I didn't die. I didn't have a near-death experience that skeptics like me often attribute to a lack of oxygen to the brain. I was completely healthy, completely awake, completely sober. And yet, I saw things that no medical textbook could ever explain. Things that made me question 25 years of unshakable certainties. If you're skeptical like I was, I only ask that you read to the end. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to listen to me. Because what I saw doesn't just affect my life, it affects yours too. It affects all of us. And the time we have to prepare is much shorter than anyone imagines. It was a typical Thursday in March. I had just returned from an international conference on emerging diseases in Geneva. I was exhausted, with jet lag still messing with my biological clock. I got home around 11 o'clock at night, took a hot shower, and lay down waiting for sleep that didn't come. I lay there, staring at the dark ceiling, my mind still processing the presentations I had attended. Around 3 in the morning, something changed in the room. I can't explain it any other way. The air became thicker, as if the atmospheric pressure had suddenly increased. I felt a weight on my chest that wasn't pain. It was a presence. My first thought was that I was having a heart attack. My second thought was that I was going crazy. Neither was right. A light appeared in the corner of the room. It wasn't an electric light. It didn't come from anywhere specific. It was as if the darkness itself was being dissolved by something stronger. I tried to get up and couldn't. My body was paralyzed, but my mind had never been so clear. Every cell of my being was on high alert, registering every detail of that impossible moment. Then I saw him, a being of human appearance, but clearly not human. There were no wings, no halo, nothing of the childish religious imagination. There was only a presence so absolute that it made the air vibrate. His eyes contained something I have no words to describe. A depth that seemed to transcend time, as if he had witnessed the birth of stars and the death of civilizations. My scientific mind screamed for explanations: sleep paralysis, hypnagogic hallucination, psychotic episode. But I knew, with a certainty that transcended logic, that none of these explanations applied. I was facing something real, something that existed outside the categories my medical training had created. Fear gave way to something I can only call involuntary reverence. He didn't speak with words. The communication happened directly in my consciousness, as if thoughts were being deposited inside me. The first thing I felt was my own name, Rafael. laden with a weight that contained my entire history. And along with my name came a silent question that shattered me. Are you ready to see? Before I could answer, I was already seeing. Not with my physical eyes, which remained open in the dark room, but with something deeper. It was like having a second vision superimposed on the first, clearer and more real than anything I had ever experienced. And what I saw chilled me to the bone, with a clinical precision that only a doctor could fully comprehend. I saw a level 4 containment laboratory. I immediately recognized the environment from the protocols I had studied for years. Scientists in full biosafety suits worked in front of laminar flow cabinets. On the computer screens, I could see genetic sequences being manipulated, fragments of RNA being recombined with frightening precision. I saw the exact moment when human arrogance crossed a line it should never have crossed. The virus that emerged from that manipulation was unlike anything I had ever studied. It was a respiratory pathogen with hybrid characteristics, combining the transmissibility of a coronavirus with the lethality of something far worse. I saw its molecular structure slowly rotating before my eyes, the spike proteins modified, the binding receptors optimized for human cells. As a scientist, I recognized the deadly elegance of that biological architecture, the voice of being cut through my scientific analysis. You played with the fire of creation. You took what was made and tried to remake it in your own image. This is the fruit, not divine punishment, but the natural consequence of human pride. The same knowledge that could heal was used to destroy, and now what has escaped can no longer be contained. I saw patient 0, a lab technician in his 30s who didn't even know he carried the agent of destruction within him. I saw him coughing on the crowded subway, touching handrails, embracing his wife when he got home. I saw the invisible viral particles spreading like a silent cloud of death. I saw the first cells being invaded, the first immune systems being deceived by the sophistication of that artificial invader. The first symptoms would appear in 7 days. Low-grade fever, sore throat, a dry cough that seemed harmless. Initial doctors would diagnose it as the common flu, send patients home with antipyretics, and rest. No one would suspect anything. No one would realize until it was too late. And during all that time, each infected person would be spreading millions of viral copies with every breath. My vision deepened and I saw the virus in action inside the human body. My medical training allowed me to understand every detail with terrifying clarity. I saw the viral particles invading the epithelial cells of the respiratory tract, hijacking the cellular machinery, transforming each infected cell into a death factory. I saw the exponential replication happening in real time. The symptoms of the first phase were deceptively mild. Fever between 37.5 and 38 degrees Celsius, moderate fatigue, persistent headache, a dry cough that did not respond to conventional antitussives. Most patients would continue working, thinking it was just a bad cold. They would continue using public transport, in offices, in schools, each one of them a walking biological bomb infecting dozens of others. The second phase arrived around the 10th day. The fever rose abruptly to 40 degrees or more, resistant to any medication. The cough became productive, with a bloody sputum indicating severe lung damage. Oxygen saturation began to fall, slowly at first, then in free fall. Patients described a sensation of drowning on dry land, their lungs filling with inflammatory fluid. I saw something in my vision that made me want to scream. The virus wasn't just attacking the lungs. It had a tropism for multiple organs. It invaded the central nervous system, causing delirium, seizures, and coma. It attacked the heart, causing fulminant myocarditis in young and healthy patients. It destroyed the kidneys, overloaded the liver, and triggered a coagulation storm that filled the body with microthrombi. "This is the second horseman," said the being beside me. "The plague that rides before the end. It was not sent, it was created. But it will be allowed as a consequence and as a warning. Those who have ears will hear. Those who have eyes will see. The rest will continue sleeping until it is too late to awaken. The fatality rate I saw in the graphs made me swallow hard. It wasn't the 2% of COVID. It was something between 15 and 20% in the general population, reaching 40% in the elderly and immunocompromised. And most terrifyingly, the virus showed an inexplicable preference for children between 5 and 12 years old. An anomaly that defied everything we know about respiratory infections. My vision expanded, and I saw the old continent succumbing. Italy was the first to fall, as it had been in 2020, but this time there was no precedent to prepare for. I saw Milan in March, hospitals already operating at 300% capacity. Corridors transformed into makeshift ICUs, doctors choosing who would live and who would die based on criteria that no Hippocratic oath could justify. I saw the Italian children, schools transformed into field hospitals, silent playgrounds, empty parks. I saw parents driven mad with despair, carrying feverish children to emergency rooms that had no more beds. I saw veteran pediatricians weeping in the locker rooms, unable to process what they were witnessing. The infant mortality rate climbed like a curve from hell, defying all known statistics. Spain fell next. Madrid implemented lockdowns that made 2020 seem like a rehearsal. Military on the streets, a 6 o'clock curfew, drones flying over residential neighborhoods in search of quarantine violators. I saw the funeral system collapse completely. I saw ice skating rinks being converted into temporary morgues. I saw families waiting weeks to bury their dead. Germany held out longer, as always. Its legendary efficiency bought a few precious weeks. I saw Angela Merkel, or perhaps her successor, making increasingly somber pronouncements. I saw the digital tracking system functioning perfectly, and yet failing to contain the spread. I saw German hospitals, the best in the world, reaching their limit and then exceeding it. France closed its borders too late. I saw a deserted Paris, the Eiffel Tower, illuminating a ghost town. I saw the famous cafes with chairs stacked inside, never to be unstacked again. I saw the French healthcare system, a source of national pride, crumbling under the weight of an enemy that knew no nationality and respected no borders. The UK tried herd immunity once again, and once again paid the price. I saw London in flames, not literally, but in the epidemiological sense. I saw Boris Johnson, or whoever was in power, admitting on national television that they had been wrong. I saw NHS hospitals turning into war zones. I saw nurses using garbage bags as PPE because supplies had run out weeks ago. The vision crossed the Atlantic, and what I saw was even worse. The United States, more politically fragmented than ever before, was facing the virus like 50 different countries instead of a united nation. I saw states closing borders against each other. I saw governors fighting over ventilators like children fighting over toys. I saw the federal system coming to a complete standstill. New York fell first, and it fell hard. I saw Central Park transformed into a field hospital, white tents stretching as far as the eye could see. I saw Times Square empty, the bright screens advertising to no one. I saw Manhattan hospitals diverting ambulances because there was nowhere left to put the sick. I saw the constant sound of sirens day and night until the sirens themselves began to fall silent for lack of living paramedics. California was burning while simultaneously suffocating. I saw Los Angeles under a double emergency, wildfires on one side, a pandemic on the other. I saw desperate internal migrations, millions trying to flee the cities for rural areas, taking the virus with them. I saw Silicon Valley, with all its technology and billions of dollars, completely powerless in the face of something that couldn't be solved with an app. I saw Texas defying federal recommendations, keeping everything open in the name of freedom. I saw the price of that freedom measured in bodies piled up in refrigerated trucks parked at football stadiums. I saw hospitals in Houston refusing patients who weren't local residents. I saw small towns in the interior where the virus swept through like wildfire, leaving entire communities devastated. Latin America broke my heart in a personal way. I saw Brazil, my country, repeating the same mistakes with suicidal stubbornness. I saw Manaus reliving the nightmare of 2021, but multiplied tenfold. I saw the SUS, Brazilian public healthcare system, collapsing sequentially, from north to south, like dominoes falling one after another. I saw entire favelas being decimated while the rich locked themselves in gated communities with their own oxygen generators. I saw Mexico building mass graves on the outskirts of Mexico City. I saw Argentina still recovering from its economic crises, now facing an existential crisis. I saw Colombia, Peru, Chile, all falling into the same abyss. I saw entire families dying together in houses without ventilation, discovered weeks later by the smell. I saw orphan children wandering empty streets, searching for parents who would never return. The being showed me the numbers, and I almost fainted, even though I was out of my physical body. The projections were so terrible that my scientific mind refused to process them. But there they were, in graphs and curves I knew all too well, the cold language of epidemiology telling an unparalleled horror story. In the first wave, which would last approximately 4 months, global deaths would reach 15 million. The second wave, driven by a more lethal mutation that would emerge in India, would add another 25 million. The third wave, born from a variant resistant to hastily developed vaccines, would complete the devastation. The final total would approach 100 million lives lost in less than 2 years. I saw economic systems collapsing. Not the 2020 recession, but something structurally different. Supply chains completely destroyed. Factories closed due to a lack of living workers. Fields with no one to harvest. I saw empty shelves in supermarkets in rich countries. I saw hunger in places that had never known hunger. I saw money losing value. I saw entire societies regressing decades in a matter of months. I watched political systems crumble under the pressure. Governments fall. Revolutions erupt. Civil wars begin in countries that seemed stable. I watched the international order dissolve. Every nation for itself, every city for itself, every family for itself. I watched the social contract being torn apart. I watched the thin veneer of civilization being ripped away to reveal something far more primitive and brutal beneath. This is the tremor before the earthquake, the being said. Humanity has built towers of arrogance to the sky, and now they will tremble. But remember, even in judgment there is mercy. Even in destruction there is purpose. Those who turn to the Creator will find refuge. Those who persist in their rebellion will reap what they have sown. I also saw the survivors. I saw faith communities coming together, caring for one another, sharing what little they had. I saw churches transforming into food distribution centers. I saw mosques opening their doors to all. I saw synagogues organizing support networks that crossed religious boundaries. In the midst of the darkness, small lights of compassion shone with an intensity that defied the despair around them. When the vision ended, I was back in my room, drenched in sweat, trembling like a leaf in the wind. The clock read 3:47 a.m. Less than an hour had passed in earthly time, but I felt as if I'd lived years within that revelation. Every image was etched into my memory with a clarity no nightmare ever had. I spent months fighting against what I had seen. I had all the tests done, consulted all the specialists, tried all the rational explanations. But deep down, I knew it hadn't been a hallucination. The technical details I saw, the structure of the virus, the mechanisms of pathogenicity, the epidemiological projections, everything was too consistent, too precise, to be the product of a fevered mind. Today, I come forward not as a prophet, but as a witness. I do not abandon science. It remains my tool of work. But I have learned that science alone is not enough, that there are dimensions of reality that our instruments cannot measure, that the arrogance of thinking we know everything is precisely what has put us on this path of destruction. My appeal is twofold. First, prepare yourselves physically. Stockpile basic medicines, non-perishable food, and clean drinking water. Strengthen your immune systems with adequate sleep, a healthy diet, and regular exercise. Don't expect governments to save you, because when the storm arrives, each of you will be largely on your own. Second, and most importantly, prepare yourselves spiritually. No matter what your religious tradition is, reconnect with the sacred. Read the texts that your ancestors considered holy. Pray, meditate. Quiet your minds enough to hear the voice that is trying to reach you. Resolve conflicts with family and friends while there is still time. Forgive those who need to be forgiven. Ask forgiveness from those you have hurt. I was a man who thought I had all the answers. Today, I am a man who has learned that the right questions are more important than the wrong answers. The biggest question is this: if what I saw is true, and I now believe with every fiber of my being that it is, are you prepared? Not just for a pandemic, but for what comes after. For the moment when all our science will bow before something infinitely greater. The door is still open, but as I was told that night, it won't stay that way forever. I am Dr. Rafael Mendez. I am a man of science who learned the hard way that faith is not the enemy of knowledge, that the two can walk together, that they must walk together. May God have mercy on us all in the days to come. You've come this far. You've listened to every word. You felt the weight of this message. Now you have a choice. Close this page, go back to your routine, forget what you read, and continue living as if you had all the time in the world. Millions will do this. Dr. Raphael himself said so. Many will not listen. They will call it madness, coincidence, religious fiction. And when the storm arrives, they will be completely unprepared. Take this warning seriously. I'm not asking you to abandon your life. I'm not asking you to sell everything and go to the mountains. I'm asking for something much simpler. Get ready.